I'm William Stewart, co-founder of Telios. Welcome back to our verse-by-verse study on the book of Revelation. Such a wonderful book that God has graciously given to us. The detail, the end times, the time after the church, the time after the rapture, the great tribulation, detailed from chapters 4 to 18, and now the second coming of Christ. And we're in chapter 19 currently, where Christ has returned. The chapter begins with the setting scene of rejoicing in heaven, and then the ceremony of the bride of Christ, all saints from all time, and their association with Christ and his glory at his return. And then these last few verses, which we will detail today, talk about the final battle of the forces of the earth and Satan against God. So in the King James, and starting with verse 17, let's get started. Now I saw an angel standing in the sun. This is a unique position of an angel. We see a lot of angels in the book of Revelation, usually as messengers, and as their name implies itself, both in Hebrew and the Greek. The sun here probably relates to majesty or power. We don't know exactly. And he cried with a loud voice, again, loud being common, might mean authority, majesty. You'll have to make that assessment yourself. And he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God. Here, heaven is a difficult Greek word, and I'll try to pronounce it, mesouraniema, otherwise middle of heaven. I don't think it's used in relationship to where God dwells. Usually that's Uranos, heavens. I think it's related to the sky, and by the context and use. Come and gather yourselves together for the great supper of God. 18, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and all of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all, free and bond, both small and great. So basically, he's giving us here initially the results of this battle of these armies against God. They were all killed. That's a great feast for the birds, very vivid imagery. Verse 19, and I saw the beast, this is the Antichrist, the kings of the earth and their armies, gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse, this is Christ described earlier, and against his army, and the army that he brought with him, the righteous army. Verse 20, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet, that wrought miracles before them, and which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. So those who had the beast, this false prophet, those who had the mark of the beast, remember 666, famously that many people know about this number, were taken and cast into the lake of fire, and those who worshipped him as well. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat on the horse. Otherwise, those that were any others that were in this battle were slain by Christ who's on the horse, which proceeded out of his mouth, that's the sword, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. So what we have here is this final battle. In summary, those who hate God and the Antichrist and his beast were all killed. And those who worship the beast and his false prophet, were cast into the lake of fire. Thus ends really Babylon. Otherwise, we've talked about from Genesis 10 that although man has fought God since Adam and Eve, and really then first Cain killing Abel, but where the organized resistance, it seems to begin in Babylon, in Genesis 10 has been with us since the early days of man, fighting against God, wanting to elevate himself to authority over God, not to have to obey God, do his own desire, both in terms of relationships and terms of power, in terms of money. And we've seen the fall of this now. It's a great time in history. Christ's return, he's destroyed this unrighteous organization that fights against God, who brings peace and security and prosperity to all men. Okay, so next chapter, we'll talk about the millennial kingdom, where Christ sets up his rule on earth, where righteousness will finally rule over the earth. And it'll be a wonderful time for everyone there who believes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you'll join me next time. I'll look forward to seeing you then.